Well, the results of the elections in Hungary have shocked absolutely everyone, both those who supported and those who opposed Orbán. Viktor Orbán's party, Fidesz, which has been in power for 16 years, suffered a crushing defeat in the parliamentary elections in Hungary. With almost all the ballots counted, the center-right party TISA, led by Pechiy Magyar, is getting a constitutional majority. 138 seats out of 199 in the local parliament. And here, many in Brussels and Kiev breathed a sigh of relief because they were counting on Pechiy Magyar to be as pro-European and pro-Ukrainian as possible. After all, Orbán was openly a pro-Russian politician, while the opposition leader Magyar seemed to be a pro-European leader. But it turned out that it's too early to jump to conclusions. Pechiy Magyar unexpectedly announced today that he is preparing to hold direct talks with the Russians about energy supplies, just like Viktor Orbán did. And this statement was immediately welcomed in the Kremlin, saying that they are ready for dialogue. And in general, Pechiy Magyar stated that he is not a pro-Ukrainian politician, but a pro-Hungarian one, so this should also be taken into account. And this situation made many people uneasy, because Magyar was not very forthcoming about his positions on the European Union and Ukraine. So let's figure out this situation together and break it down. Who is Pechiy Magyar and what can we expect from him? My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start this episode, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the episode, and leave any comment under this video. And also subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. So, Hungarian voters have overthrown Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. Orbán, after 16 years in power, has been dealt a crushing blow, bringing down one of the most entrenched populist leaders in the Western world. The political upheaval in Hungary, where US Vice President J.D. Vance was sent to campaign for Orbán in the final days of the election, will have far-reaching consequences not only for Budapest, but far beyond its borders. Pechiy Magyar, a 45-year-old former close associate of the Fidesz party. Pechiy Magyar, who broke with Viktor Orbán 2 years ago and turned the newly formed TISA party into a political machine, declared victory on Sunday evening. According to preliminary results indicating a convincing victory, Orbán congratulated the Hungarian opposition and vowed to continue serving Hungary despite the painful defeat. And now, after counting 99% of the votes, the Hungarian TISA party has received 138 out of 199. In the parliament, this constitutes an overwhelming two-thirds majority. Orbán's Fidesz party has 55 seats. Well, this means that the TISA party alone has the right not only to pass laws, but even to amend the country's constitution in order to put an end to Viktor Orbán's legacy. Moreover, in this situation, Pechiy Magyar almost automatically becomes the Prime Minister of Hungary. There will be no disputes about this, and there will be quick recognition. Viktor Orbán's defeat was met with approval in Europe, which surprised observers who feared that Viktor Orbán might try to challenge the results with Russia's support. But instead, he conceded so quickly. And then suddenly, the opposition leader Pechiy Magyar surprised everyone. Today, the Kremlin stated that they are ready to support pragmatic contacts with Hungary, as this would be beneficial for both countries. That's according to the Kremlin spokesperson. And further on, in the parliamentary elections in Hungary. And then a quote from Peskov. The Hungarians have made their choice, and we respect that choice. We expect that we will continue our very pragmatic contacts with the new government. And this is despite the fact that earlier, the special representative of the President of the Russian Federation, Kirill Dmitriev, stated that the results of the elections in Hungary would accelerate the collapse of the European Union. But the official Kremlin, represented by Peskov, believes that Moscow needs to see what actions the new leadership of Hungary will take. Here is a quote from Peskov. We are interested in building good relations with Hungary, as well as with all European countries. We know that unfortunately when it comes to European countries, we can't talk about reciprocity yet, but Russia is open to dialogue. It would seem that everything is clear with Magyar. He will not engage in dialogue with the Russians because he built his election team and campaign on pro-European slogans. But the leader of the TISA party, Pechiy Magyar, suddenly announced today that his government will hold negotiations with the Russian Federation. And this statement shocked many people because they expected something completely different from Magyar. But, as always, many media outlets only paid attention to this part of the statement where he says they will negotiate with the Russian Federation, forgetting to show the full context. Therefore, I will give you Magyar's full quote so you can understand what he actually said. Quote, "Of course, if circumstances lead to negotiations with the Russian president, the geographical position of neither Russia nor Hungary will change. And our energy dependence will also remain for some time. We need to strengthen diversification, but this cannot be done in a single day. If necessary, we will negotiate, but we will not become friends. Also, no one in Hungary wants a pro-Ukrainian government. Everyone wants a pro-Hungarian one, which will deal with the real problems of the Hungarian people." So if you look at this situation from the Hungarian point of view, there's nothing terrible about this statement. Nevertheless, the rest of Magyar's statements are rather vague. And it's worth noting here that earlier, Peter Magyar did not deny Russian aggression and did not agree with Viktor Orbán's rhetoric about the claim that it was someone else's war. In 2024, shortly after the Russian missile strike on the Okhmadit Children's Hospital in Kyiv, he visited the Ukrainian capital. He brought with him humanitarian aid collected by his party, and at that time he stated, quote, "Russia is the aggressor and Ukraine has the right to defend its territory." At the same time, Magyar's statements have never been 100% pro-Ukrainian. Well, for example, he spoke out against Ukraine's accelerated accession to the European Union, against supplying weapons to Kyiv, and made it clear that he wants to put the question of Ukraine's EU membership to a Hungarian referendum. Also, the TISA party in the European Parliament voted against granting Ukraine a €90 billion loan from the EU, even though Hungary was not required to make any financial contribution. So, there will be a difficult path of diplomacy here. And remember the argument between Zelensky and Orbán in March. And back then, few people noticed, but Peter Magyar called on the EU leadership to, quote, "suspend all relations with Ukraine, at the very least until President Zelensky clarifies his words and apologizes to Hungary for his statement." On the issue of relations with Russia, Magyar was also quite restrained. He pointed out that ties with Moscow are Orbán's weak spot and accused his government of open, blatant betrayal. Magyar criticized Orbán's government for its inability to diversify the energy mix. However, according to him, quote, "This does not mean that we should stop using Russian oil. This means that the resources of the European Union should be used rationally." So for now, it's worth waiting and taking a broader look at the situation. Nevertheless, today the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Andriy Sybiha, said earlier this morning that Kyiv is open to dialogue, and he has already sent signals to the new Hungarian government about establishing contacts, particularly at the level of leaders. Ukraine expects the EU to unblock a €90 billion loan. Assistance in Ukraine's European integration and other cooperation, particularly regarding national minorities and border infrastructure. By the way, the Druzhba oil pipeline hasn't been mentioned in Kyiv yet, but it's obvious that they will move on to that as well. So let's see how the first diplomatic contacts with the new Hungarian government will be established. I'll leave it at that. Friends, if you find this episode interesting and useful, you can support the work of this project with your YouTube channel, your donation, or sponsorship on YouTube. Just click the sponsor button right below this video, or with a paid subscription. In general, there are plenty of ways to support the work of this YouTube channel in the description of this video. Choose any option that's convenient for you. I'll be grateful for any support you give. Or you can use the QR code on your screen. That's also a convenient way. Subscribe to the PG News Telegram channel, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.